One of the things, if you go back and study any of the pandemics, what you'll notice is there's fundamental changes to how real estate specifically gets used after a pandemic as opposed to before. And that has and is having its effect everywhere. And then you combine that with technology. Now what we've got is this concept of idle assets and asset-light business models taking over the world because everything can be shared. It's like these are the things that unlock opportunity for, honestly, everyone.
Welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show that is laser focused to inspire you to take action to start or to scale your side hustle income streams. I'm your host, Joan Posivy, author of The Way Success Works. These days, today's guest sees what he calls oceans of opportunity everywhere. Jay Massey was all but retired at the age of 38 when one of his students asked what he knew about short-term rentals. While the answer at the time was not very much, he started looking into the model and was astounded at the opportunities. Today, Jay runs a 34-unit short-term rental business and runs a training company known as Cashflow Diary, helping others to get established and grow in the industry. In this, part one of 2 episodes with Jay, you'll hear what's now driving the short-term rental market, the multiple income sources that you can set up to create earnings over and above just the nightly rent, how you can establish a short-term rental side hustle without even owning a property, and other income opportunities outside of the real estate space, but in the shared economy. Jay also shares his, quote, super secret of how he bought and sold over 200 properties, each in 72 hours or less, earning him between $2,000 and $26,000 per property. You're sure to have light bulb moments as you listen to my conversation with today's side hustle hero, Jay Massey.
One of the things I like to let people know is that I actually don't like real estate. What I like is assets. I am asset agnostic. That is to say, the benefits of real estate are great. Right now, we're focused on short-term rentals, acquiring hotels, and continuing to help others, do the same, primarily multifamily assets. So we ended up switching a lot of the portfolio over to short-term rentals, and we have those in 3 different locations now, multiple states, and also are still looking for more apartment buildings, cell phone towers, and the like. But again, it's more about cash flow for me than it is about it being real estate specific.
Just prior to getting into the real estate business or the asset business, what clicked for you to think, I can do this, I got this, I can make money in real estate?
Well, here's the truth of the matter is I didn't have a choice. I did not get into real estate or any of this stuff because I was trying to, quote unquote, make money or do anything. I wanted to eat.
That's a motivator.
Well, it's very consistent. It's really good accountability there, multiple times a day. And that's really all it was. Let me explain. My ex-wife, when she pregnant, she has a condition known as hyperemesis. It meant she couldn't eat or drink. I had a punctured lung because I went to go play volleyball, landed on a guy's head. I couldn't walk and talk. And I needed a way to earn income without contributing my labor. And that's one of the biggest things that I think everyone listening to us today, that we still do. We don't realize that the biggest challenge is that our economic value is tied directly to the amount of labor that we contribute to the marketplace. And I was forced to, at a young age, to realize and find a way to eat without being physically able to contribute labor, which led me to looking for assets. For a while, I was selling for our personal possessions on eBay. And then a friend said, hey, you should get involved in real estate. And I'm like, I have a credit score of 398. I'm squatting in bank-owned property. I don't know that that's for me, but if you have something I don't know about, tell me. You're going to have to show me how to do this with no money, no credit.
Yeah.
Now, saying that to say this, Often when we're presented with an opportunity, the first thing we do is come up with a long list of why we are not qualified for it, period. And then we let that list become the reason we don't investigate or step forward further. In fact, if our friends will confirm what we suspect, then we really shut it down and don't even give ourselves a chance. And this was one of those few times where I did not do that. I didn't let what I didn't have stop me from moving forward. I have no idea why that happened. But in the process, I discovered the same process I had been using on eBay, because I was going around to other people's garage sales at this point, buying their items, relisting them on eBay Sunday so that we could eat on Monday. And turns out that wholesaling is the same thing. And I didn't know that, though. And when I found that out, I realized that I could buy and sell properties in 72 hours or less. And that's what I started doing. And then what happened is I did about 200 of those transactions. That's what started what I call my house collecting phase. And then we get to the point to where I learned two very important things. When you have a business, it's a great way of making income. So wholesaling is more of a business than it is an investment strategy. When you're holding property, it's a great way of making wealth, but not a great way of making income. And what I was looking for was a way to merge the two. And that's how we end up in short-term rentals today.
You mentioned basically flipping properties in 72 hours.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, was that lining up a buyer before the place even closed?
Yes. And that's the biggest thing. There's two things that I know that I did differently than what most people still do today. Is one, most people find buyers for houses. I prefer to find houses for buyers. And that's small. It sounds like it doesn't make much difference, but it makes all the difference in the world. And then right behind that was many people would sell, well, the cheeseburger. You don't go to McDonald's and just buy a cheeseburger. You buy a number one. You sell everything the customer needs. If someone is going to purchase a house from you and you know that they're purchasing it because they want to hold it long term, well, give them everything else that they need. So what I learned to do was find the house and then package it with the tenant in place, property management in place. And I went one step further than what most people do. I even put financing in place. And when I say financing, I don't mean through a bank. I mean, I negotiated seller financing, non-recourse seller financing at that, so that somebody else with their retirement account could purchase it. And that was my quote unquote super secret, was I could guarantee that they would qualify for the loan, because I had all of that stuff was already pre-negotiated, and I was able to earn between $2,000 to $26,000 per property, which made it really, really easy for many retirement accounts to purchase them. Because, hey, some of my deals, you just needed $7,000 in a retirement plan, and I could get you could have a house. A lot of people have $7,000 on a retirement plan. And that's what I figured out. So I just kept repeating that model over and over and over again until I learned about taxes. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I have to keep them. And that's kind of been my entire career, is learning whatever I learn next. That's like is usually a result of a problem that I occurred previously. And so then I add the new learning to what I learned previously, which often takes me in a different direction, but ultimately is how I end up in short-term rentals.
And your ability to continue to add on that learning served you well with the real estate transactions that you just described, because you were really solving a lot of problems that you anticipated people were going to have, so that you essentially put together this package for them, which made it really attractive. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's all of us do. I mean, when we really break it down, we just problem say, that one's mine, I'll take it. And this is what it's going to, if you want me to do it, this is what it's going to cost. And we find ways to then scale that same attitude and understanding to many different people.
Well, it's now early 2023. And over the last year, we've seen mortgage rates climb, making the cost of borrowing that much more expensive. And as you know, in a lot of areas, property values have dipped. As an experienced real estate investor, where do you see the best opportunities now for someone wanting to get into real estate as a side hustle?
Oh, right now. Right now.
Okay.
Because I got in when the market was broken for all intents and purposes too. We, those of us looking to enter into any industry, you need it to break, because if the market never breaks, it only goes up one direction. And at some point it becomes darn near impossible for you to ever get in. I mean, all you need to do is look at shares of Berkshire Hathaway, Berkshire A shares. You're not likely to pick up one of those. Okay. Because you need the market to break. You need certain things to happen for the new people to come in.
What opportunities are you seeing that the average person maybe is missing right now in this market?
Okay.
Let me count the ways, he says.
Yeah, that was like, wait, I've been saying oceans of opportunity, because that's really what it is. We are in a unprecedented state right now, because I don't know about you, but that was my first pandemic. So therefore, this is my first post-pandemic as well. So there's so many things that were exposed as either single points of failure or just very fragile infrastructure situations. Many people learned that, hey, a job is not good enough, or the job you have is not really what you want to do. And more importantly, that I could learn to work from anywhere. And these types of trends are honestly what's driving the short-term rental industry. Just earlier today, I was talking with a new prospective student, and she was in the process of switching her life, literally entire lifestyle, so she could work mobily. Like, that's what she was working with her current employer to make sure that she could work mobily so that she could work from anywhere. She wanted more of that. We've begun to put an emphasis on this quality of life, which I think is great, and creates lots of needs and opportunities for new solutions, new ways of doing some of the same things, going to school, getting kids educated. What does vacation really look like if I can work from anywhere? Like, what is that now? And do I really want to own a house, or do I just want to live 3 months here and 4 months there, and all these types of things? This is it's an exciting time, because it's driving innovation in a way that we've not seen. I mean, just think about it. 2 years ago, your grandma could not spell Instacart, but now she probably relies on it in ways she never experienced. My own mom ordered from Amazon from the first time, which I thought was crazy.
Wow.
It takes a pandemic for her to order from Amazon, but hey, she finally did it. So all of those types of things, this forced adoption cycle that we have been through, it has an effect everywhere. We understand the internet better. Everyone knows what Zoom is. I mean, they seem like insignificant and unimportant, but they change how real estate is used. And that's one of the things, if you go back and study any of the pandemics, what you'll notice is there's fundamental changes to how real estate specifically gets used after a pandemic as opposed to before. And that has and is having its effect everywhere. And then you combine that with technology. Now what we've got is this concept of idle assets and asset-light business models taking over the world, because everything can be shared. You can share your car, you can share your house, you can share your camera. Some people are still sharing spouses, but that was already happening before.
That was already there.
You understand, though. It's like, these are the things that unlock opportunity for, honestly, everyone. Because now it's not gate kept. It's not so exclusive for someone to be able to have something that is of economic value and be able to offer it to a person who's willing to pay for it. When that bar is lowered because of technology, everything can be utilized in some way, shape, or form. Even those of you who are listening who have vacant land, You have an opportunity in the short-term rental space because of things like tiny homes and yurts and whatnot. Because now these are all things that people want to experience. And that's really what's crazy is like, my challenge is to focus on just one or two things, because each one of the use cases for short-term rentals, of which there's 65, any one of them is a 7-figure opportunity. Dare I say 8, and for some of you 9. And that's not even including, that's exclusive of transitioning into hotels. And it's just massive. And the bar is so low because now all you need is a lease. You don't have to own the asset.
Right. So,
oh, sorry. You got me excited. Just thinking about it.
That's good.
There's so much of this that's happening, like hospitals, because they've been doing it forever. A lot of the medical devices, the equipments for surgery the hospitals don't own that. A medical device company leases it to them and ships it to them the morning before it's needed, and then ships it back to Memphis. Usually they clean it up and send it back out somewhere else over and over again. The cameras that we watch our movies on, or that Hollywood uses, those things are expensive. Same thing. Yeah. I mean, it's just everywhere and we can all access it now, which then if you put some systems behind that, you can put yourself in a situation to where your income is no longer tied to your labor, and more importantly, not tied to a clock.
So a couple of times you've mentioned short-term rentals. That's obviously what you're referring to.
Sure.
So you're saying that short-term rentals can be a lucrative side hustle?
No, that not can be. They are. They're one of the most diversified, accessible, and most people just don't see it. And it's really right in front of you. You just don't see it.
What's a common opportunity then that people miss in that space?
Parking. There's a company called Spot Hero.
Okay.
And all they do is let you share your garage space, your parking space in front of your house, if you really wanted to. There's another one called Neighbor for storage. So all of you with those garages, you could actually do that too. Obviously, we know of Airbnb, right?
Yes.
But the whole point is we all have these idle assets that that cost us money. Your car, is another one. You don't use it 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: you don't even realize that 2 or 3 days, maybe 5 at the most, if you have a car note, you could cancel it out with sites like Turo. And you wouldn't even know that you wouldn't even notice it being gone, because especially if you're working from anywhere now, which is really ironic. We have the opportunity to work from anywhere, but we're still holding on tight to the car that we used to use to commute, but now we're not commuting. So it's just, we have a lot of that excess in our lives that can unlock value that we don't even know is in front of us. And it's just everywhere. I can't help but see it everywhere I go. But
I could just hear people saying, I want to go walking down the street with Jay.
No, you don't. You won't make it far. You won't make it far. It's like, I have to actively turn it off. Otherwise it's really rough.
So I guess one step then would be for a person to look around them and say, what have I got in terms of assets that are underutilized that I can rent out to somebody?
100%. I wasn't joking. There's a site for cameras. There's a site for cooking, believe it or not.
Cooking?
If you know how to cook, you could rent yourself out as a chef to other people to go cook. Everything is there. It's like there's one for boats. And I got to say this one, because all you boat people, you're paying those slip fees and you probably go on the boat, 2 weeks out of the entire year? You could be renting out. You don't even have to take it out of the harbor. Someone wants to stay on your boat tonight and will pay you for it.
Right.
It's just a matter of understanding that certain things that you consider trash is somebody else's treasure, really.
And so I guess the next step then would be, if a person seriously wants to rent that boat or their home or their car, is to connect with an insurance company to see how that's going to change things?
Sometimes, but typically it's screening, safety, and security. Those are the three things that you need to look at first. How can you keep the right person? How can you ensure that you're talking to the right person? Then keep that person safe, right?
How do you mean? Sorry, what do you mean by talking to the right person?
Well, one of the downsides of technology is that everybody has access to it. One of the upsides is everybody has access to it. Right. So you don't really know who that, it's just ones and zeros and some typed words on the other end. So being able to electronically, quickly, and efficiently screen the individuals so that any undesired party, and the undesired party can be of all kinds. Like I don't like vacationers in any of our units, which sounds crazy from a guy in California. But truth of the matter is, I don't want vacationers in our units. So that is an undesired party, right? So being able to screen out the party that you don't want is critical. And understanding the fullness of the economic value that you're providing. See, in the short-term rental space, when I'm talking about accommodations, most people think it's about the property or the bed or something of that nature. And they're 100% off. The business is actually about distribution. What we are is a distribution model, very similar to Starbucks. Starbucks can distribute through their locations almost any product or service related to the main product or service. It's the same is true for us. We can distribute any consumer good very well, direct to the customer. So if I was starting a new coffee business, I'd be talking to short-term rental operators because I've got to buy coffee from somewhere, right? And part of the reason people are coming to stay with us is for a different experience. So if part of my different experience is a different coffee that they have not been able to get from a grocery store, because maybe you haven't gotten placement for your coffee inside of a grocery store, you actually help me and I help you, right? And that applies to art. That applies to the makers and creators on Etsy, knitting, crochet, because we're using all of these things anyway in order to deliver an experience. So it makes us really, really good at distributing almost any product or service that's in a B2C nature.
So what would be an example of that with a short-term rental property? And I'm thinking the person that has just a few properties. Oh,
so painting, sip and paints are great, right? So if you have a child I'll use crocheting again too. If you have a child that likes to crochet, make doilies, I don't know. Well, here's what I do know.
Okay.
Those doilies, people like them, even if I don't. Okay.
There's people out there that like and use doilies.
Cups. And here's the thing. They'll buy them later. If you let them know, you have them later. Maybe you know how to knit and make a robe, right? You have a robe that's now available for the guests to use. And guess what later happens is that they want it for themselves. The same things happen with the beds, the TVs, and anything that's inside that unit. All of these things become opportunities to resell those same items to that customer later. And we can, art. If you know how to draw or make art of any kind, think of it as a gallery exhibit, if you will, because that's kind of how it goes. We've got a lot of people coming through the units looking at your art. If we let them know that it's available for sale, pay us a little commission, just like you would at a gallery, everybody's happy. And we can do that over and over and over again because it's a part of our business anyway. It doesn't cost me extra money to quote unquote put the person in the head in the bed because I was going to do that anyway. So,
and if you're not the artist and it's one of your properties, you could reach out to an artist and have
correct.
Them put the paintings in there on consignment.
100%. Absolutely.
How would you sell like the bed? Is that the link that you provide somebody later, or how does that work?
Yeah, there are many. Yeah, a link is one way that you could do that because you could work with, say, what's that called? A furniture manufacturer or a furniture outlet. They contribute the furniture at no cost. When someone asks, you make sure that they go to them. It works perfect. Simple as that. And you can set that up either websites and links in many different ways. Again, the opportunity is really large, and it has way less to do with just accommodations and more to do with just like what I was doing when I was wholesaling, selling everything the customer needs, all of it.
So it's looking at an existing business model, but in a very, very different way. It kind of reminded me of decades ago when I heard that McDonald's wasn't really in the burger and food business. They were in the real estate business.
Correct.
So you're looking at it through a different lens. Well, maybe if you could walk us through the numbers then when you said that short-term rentals are a lucrative side hustle. Well, let's backtrack. My understanding is that you don't necessarily need to own a property to be able to short-term rental it. So to me, that's exciting for somebody getting into this as a side hustle.
Right.
What's a way that they could do that?
Well, see, and that's the thing. It's no more complicated than asking a landlord to lease the property to you or specifically to a corporation. It's not any more complicated. That's the biggest thing to just realize, that it doesn't even have to take long. So let me say that differently. 72 hours from when you're hearing this, you could easily have found a landlord, ask them this question, and they could say, yes, you are a conversation. By a, I mean one conversation away from being able to hear a yes from a landlord. So that's the beginning of it. That's one of the things I like about it, is that it doesn't have to take long. Now, from a number standpoint, what the thing is it's wide and varied. Here's what I mean. There's a Walmart, Target, Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus effect to everything, right? There's a reason there's an Econo Lodge. There's a reason there's a Motel 6. There's a reason there's a Red Roof Inn. There's a reason there's a Marriott. There's a Courtyard Marriott. There's a reason there's a, what's that?
Ritz-Carlton.
Yes, Ritz or Waldorf Astoria. There's a reason for all of those. But all of them provide temporary housing.
Right.
But they all serve a different customer at a different level, but essentially providing the same service.
Yes.
The same is true here when it comes to short-term rentals. You have to decide, am I going to be the hostel, or am I going to be, the luxury suite or house or villa that serves celebrities and dignitaries, etc.
Right.
So all of that's in there.
But you mentioned that you're one conversation away.
Yep.
Do you not experience pushback from landlords who say, I don't want somebody running an Airbnb or short-term rental through my property?
I experience ignorance from landlords. They don't know yet. That's actually the issue. Okay. The biggest issue is that they don't know what they don't know. And because they don't know, they assume. They let ABC, CBS, CNN, which also means constant negative news, get there first. And that forms their opinion. Because here's the truth of the matter. Okay, Joan, if I came to you and said, hey, would you like to have 0% vacancy?
Of course.
Okay, cool. Would you like that for 1 year, 2 years, or 3?
For as long as I own the property.
Great. So let's start there. What we have to realize is what we're saying. Hey, when would you like your vacancy to go away? I'd like it to go away now. Great. Would you, and how long would you like it to be that way? I'd like to never have this problem again. Great. So let's sign a lease. So let's start from that perspective. Right. It's not just that there's an opportunity on the other side of it. It's that we are a symbiotic pair. Costco is not concerned about Target because even though one's a wholesaler of cases of water and the other is a retailer of cases of water, they don't care because there's two different things going on. Right. What most people miss is that our inventory as a short-term rental operator is time. I buy time at wholesale prices from landlords, and I resell time at retail prices to the people who stay in our units. That's it. I'm just the person in the middle buying time at wholesale, reselling it at retail over and over again. I'm part of the same food chain. Right. So, and that's the thing that as more and more people begin to understand, they're like, oh, it makes sense. That's when you understand what this business is, understand who you're going to serve. I hear more, oh, that makes sense, because it makes sense. The problem is most people don't know how to describe who they serve or what the business is. That's why they keep hearing and feeling pushback. They keep saying things like, I do Airbnb, and there's no way to do that because Airbnb is not a verb. It's a marketplace.
And of course, you've seen pushback from a lot of municipalities and cities and towns regulating against short-term rentals. So part of the research too is in figuring out where what you want to do with the property is legal, is allowed.
Got it. So a politician's job is to organize the marketplace. The ordinances aren't bad. They're not even hurtful, because here's the difference. Without the organization, we have chaos. Anything goes. That's a problem when it comes to quality of service and commoditizing anything. Yeah. So we need standards, is really what I want to say. But more importantly, this industry is so fledgling, so new.
Yes.
That we don't have lending, and we can't get to lending without ordinances. So I want more of them, because it separates the wheat from the chaff, as they say, and makes sure that everyone's playing by as level a playing field as humanly possible. Now, yes, could you not do it the way that you wanted to do it before? Sure, you absolutely can't do it like that anymore. But here's what I know from working with individuals in 17 different countries. When I've read and looked at all of these ordinances, they're really saying, here's how, here's where, here's when you can do this. It's just not where you wanted it to be anymore. It's not the way you wanted it. It's not Burger King. You can't have it your way. I'm sorry. And you should be excited for it, because once this ordinance thing and this organization of it gets underway, it's only going to continue to grow. It's just like what happened when they couldn't figure out how to charge sales tax on the internet. And now look at retail and sales tax and internet commerce today. They got it figured out. And now, hey, it just keeps humming. This is going to be the same thing, but you should also take that as a warning to know that's how far at the beginning we are.
Right.
That's the part that is blue ocean opportunity.
Well, that's a wrap for today. Be sure to catch part 2 of 2 with Jay in our next episode. You'll find a link to Jay's website and social media info in the show notes and on our website, sidehustleheropodcast.com. And I'd love to hear your feedback on the show, on the guests, how this podcast is helping you. What areas could we do better? Shoot me an email message to hello@joanposivy.com or by DM on Instagram @JoanPosivy. Thanks for listening, and hustle on.